morning, judges and fellow guests. My name is Jamil Davis, a sophomore accounting and marketing major.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Goley, senior in supply chain management.
And my name is Michael McCormick. I am a senior in supply chain management major.
And today, we are representing the illustrious MorganState University in the 3rd annual Weinman case competition. And for a short time, we would like to tell you how we put knowledge into work.
So today, first thing first, agenda. Agenda tells you company's information, points of issues, cost comparison, advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing, risk factors associated with outsourcing, recommendation that we have, and take your questions after. Company's information, of course we all know the company's name, Solo Imperial Food Incorporated. They are located here in Baltimore, Maryland. They produce and retail food products, and they are major consumer packages.
So when we received the case, we first, analyzed the case, and we discovered some points at issue with the case. So we noticed that this company, in order to stay at a competitive advantage, it wanted to maximize its cost savings. And it did this by simply looking for the best outsourcer, best supplier rather, who produces the low cost. So the lowest cost. So they decided to go with a supplier from Shanghai, China. And then we noticed that during the process, they can have some outsourcing challenges because they do have to meet an estimated demand of 1,200,000. So we considered some challenges they may have going along with the supplier. And then lastly, we noticed that they got rid of their third quality inspector. So we also took this into consideration because this can add to the cost. So the cost comparison. So the initial reason for going with the company is that Shanghai, China produces unit cost of 42 cents, whereas here in Baltimore, it would be 51 cents. And this table just shows how the 18% cost savings per unit can be visually illustrated. However, at this 42 cents per unit, it's not taken into the consideration the additional cost of outsourcing. So, as a matter of fact, although it is currently at 18%, with the additional cost of outsourcing, it'll actually decrease because we have to include other costs that can tie in. So, as we go along the presentation, you will see.
Some of the additional costs that we came up with was, of course, the quality inspection. The quality inspection, since we got rid of the first quality inspector for the first case, we actually had to go back into China and find another quality inspector to kind of help us inspect the quality of the freight that we have coming in. The second thing is the damaged product in transit. That's pretty much, you have to have the insurance for the products coming in transit. This will generally cause for any issues for the carrier or anything unforeseen circumstances. Sorry. As far as freight services, depending on the contract, we have to factor in the freight services. So we're going to choose the first on board shipping point, which is the sale to the carriers at the end of the shipping point, which is the seller's dock. Or we would choose free on board destination, where it indicates that the sale would occur at the arrival of the destination of the buyer's dock. Fumigation certificates, which is the heat treated pallets. We got to make sure that the pallets are heat treated, just in case we have any infestation. And as far as the U.S. customs duties and fees, it's important that if you have anything coming over from China or anywhere outsourcing, that you have post a bond custom to ensure that all duties, taxes, and fees are owed by the federal government, and they have to be paid.
So after taking into consideration all of the additional costs along with the unit costs, we came up with a comprehensive cost comparison chart. So this chart basically tells us that the actual cost, including the additional cost, is actually 46 cents compared to Baltimore, 51 cents. And we came up with this number with the unit cost at Shanghai is quoted at 42 cents versus Baltimore at 51 cents. Then we took into consideration the international shipping cost. So according to Shanghai exchange website, the average shipping cost from US dollars to TEU is $2,625. And we divided that by 100,000 bottles because that's how much bottles we got per container order to get the unit international shipping cost of 0.026 compared to Baltimore 0 because if we're locally located here and we decide to go with a supplier here, transportation fees will be minimum. Then we also took into consideration the quality inspector. So after doing research, we found out that an average quality inspector makes about $17 to $18 per hour. And we said that, we took into consideration that they would not inspect the entire 100,000 bottles. So we estimated sample size is approximately 5% per order, considering the 4 orders. And we also considered that we'll contract them for 8 hours a day, an average day per container order. So that estimated to a total of 0.04 per bottle, per unit, compared to Baltimore, $0 because we'll probably have an in-house salary-based person to do our quality inspects compared to someone contractual-based. Then we also accounted for miscellaneous expenses, so just to have some cushion to be safe, because things can go wrong, and we wanted to accommodate for this cost just in the event of, compared to miscellaneous costs that would have already been accounted for in the unit cost for Baltimore. So the actual total cost after taking all these factors into consideration is actually 46 cents if we decide to go outsourcing versus Baltimore 51 cents, which is in actuality not 18% less, but not 18% unit cost saving, but maybe almost closer to 10% unit. But in the end, it is still better to go outsourcing.
So with that being said, taking all the calculations and number into consideration, we decided to go outsourcing, right? So of course we know that going outsourcing, we have some risk and we have some advantages. Outsourcing will allow to also save costs. Now, how are we going to save that? We came up with the calculation, of course, taking all the numbers into consideration, that will save $60,000 over 1.2 million annual demand. So that is the total amount that we will be saving. And of course, it will give us a competitive advantage over our competitors. We'll be able to produce more and sell less at lowest cost, and with flexibility it will allow us to focus on other area of the business and be able to be more productive in those areas. So of course we've already talked about the advantages, and now we can focus a little bit more about the disadvantages. Of course, in business, you want to know what your challenges are, that way you can improve on that. So of course, if you are shipping product from China, there could be a possibility where you have quality reduced just because you want your quality to be at a certain level, you may not get that. So you might want to think about that. Now, shortage can be an issue too. If you, for example, you order 100 bottles, you may not get all your 100. You could get maybe 2 less, or sometimes even a little 2 more. Service delivery, you may not get the product on time. Even if you get the right quantity and the right quality, it may not arrive on time. So something to think about. And damaged product in transit, it can happen at any time. You need to think about that. And security, of course, you don't want to share all your sensitive information with anybody, so we have to be careful sharing that information as well.
Okay, for this map, we have 2 ships, one with Shanghai going to the port of Baltimore. And this line just shows you how long that process could be. Depending on the speed of the ship and depending on the actual cargo and the route, this could take anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, maybe even longer. Also within this stretch, anything's possible. The freight could be handled inappropriately, or you could actually lose the freight. Okay, my teammate Amavi already spoke on the shipping and expense time, quality of work, and unpredictability. Next will be the language and communication barriers. Obviously, there's going to be barriers for being in Shanghai and actually communicating with them, trying to get what you guys need and what you guys want from there to over here. So the communication barrier will be a little bit of an issue. But we came up with a couple of ideas, like having a third party over there to kind of communicate and break down what is expected from them to us and vice versa, so we can make that process smooth. And, okay. All right, going from that slide to this slide, this shows you basically the cultural differences from China and the United States. From doing research, we realized that China is non-confrontational when it comes to doing business. When the United States is kind of contentious, they can be a little bit aggressive at times. First things first is business with the United States. With China, it kind of seems like they want to build a relationship first and then deal with the business, kind of get to know one another and then actually do the business. As far as the United States, they want to go straight to the transaction and then try to get the friendship later. China, they're known for being kind of passive, and the United States could be tough and dominating, which can kind of be, it kind of sets people back a little bit, but at the same time, I feel like, China would love or continue to do business with the United States. As far as China, when they do business, they do a lot of handshaking, it seems like. But as far as the United States, we deal with more contracts and more verbiage and more written contracts versus just doing handshakes.
So with that being said, and we made the decision to go outsourcing, to make sure that our decision runs efficiently and effectively, we provided some recommendations. So our first recommendation is an improved inventory policy to help us meet our estimated annual demand. Then, ways that we can build supplier relationships so that we can ensure that the quality of our goods and everything the supplier is going to be producing for us is going to be up to date and aligned with our business strategies. And then lastly, the need for an alternative supplier here in Baltimore in the event that something goes wrong.
Okay, one of those inventory policies that we came up with was the fixed order quantity system. That's basically an arrangement in which the inventory level is continuously monitored and is replenished with the stock is in the order as it's ordered as the quantity whenever the at hand falls below what we need established to reorder point. So the annual demand is 1.2 million, so we want to make sure that we stay not too far ahead of that, but we want to make sure that we have enough to supply the customer, which that will show that it will be effective. The next one is the fixed time period. The fixed time period system is an inventory control method where orders periodically placed, but the order quantity is different every time. So let's say if we have a customer like Walmart come in, they want to order more product, we have to make sure that we have that on hand so they can actually go in the system and try to order those products, which will make it more effective for that customer.
So taking that into consideration with the new inventory policy, we have to make a note that the lead time for these is about approximately 8 weeks. So like we mentioned earlier, the goods takes about 4 weeks in transit. And then that each order is 100,000 bottles. So with that being said, we made up a chart of how we can start our initial ordering process. So in the case, they started ordering around the month of November and was trying to meet an estimated demand of 1,200,000 with only 4 container orders with 100,000 orders per bottle. However, we found that that could not work in order to meet the estimated annual demand. So we came up with a policy that whereas we started to order earlier in the month of March. So if you follow along with me, in the month of March, we will place 3 orders and we have the account for 8-week time period. So then after that, we will receive those orders in the month of May, which will have 300,000 on hand. And following along, in May, we will place another 3 orders where we wait another 2 months. In July, we place another 3 orders, and as you can see in July, we are already at our half point of 600,000 bottles to meet the estimated 1,200,000. In September, I see you notice that we did miss a 2-month gap period. That is because at $600,000 in the month of July, we can say we are a bit comfortable at this point to ensure that we meet estimated demand, so it's not pressing for us to order the next month away. So we decided to order in October, where we will receive those orders in December with 300,000, and on hand as at December we'll have 1,200,000. In the cases say that in order to be distributed to everyone, it had to arrive in the United States by January 1st. And by January 1st, we already have the estimated annual demand, which is ready for the launch period of February 1st.
To add on to the inventory policy, we chose to do something with, along the lines of safety stock, just to add a couple, maybe 100,000 more. So that's just so we can feel a little more comfortable, just in case somebody wants to order more product. Okay, for the building supply relationship, one of the things we came up with was honest communication. You have to be honest with your supplier, let them know exactly your means and exactly what you want to get them to do, and vice versa. As far as focusing on the supplier data, in today's world, the supply base is about strengthening your relationships that can make or break your relationships or your businesses with the suppliers. Align yourself with your suppliers, treat them like a partner, instead of just somebody who is just, you know, random. Just make sure that you keep it professional, as well as make them understand that it's a benefit for both you guys. And lastly, use SMR technology, which is Supplier Relationship Management. This system is basically in place to make it easy for you to view your suppliers, also to make your suppliers understand and be more involved with the technology that you guys are using, where you can communicate easily and make sure that you have everything that you need to keep your business moving.
And lastly, you have all the information right now. Now we know we are going outsourcing and we are buying from China. However, we need to be safe. We are here to satisfy customers. So if we are outsourcing, we need to make sure that with all these problems that we may run into, unexpected damage in good in transit, inclement weather, unexpected increased demand from customers, we think that it will be best to have another supplier here in-house. That way, in case something goes wrong with China, we are still able to satisfy our customers, which is our main priority.
And some of the things that could go wrong is inclement weather or unexpected increase in customer demand. So a customer might have a random order of 200,000 bottles. So the safety stock will help with that as well. So you heard our case. We decided to go outsourcing. These are some of the references that helped us come to conclusion. And now we would love to open the floor up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
Can you explain the difference between one of your slides? You had two options, and one was affective and the other was effective.